All right, and welcome back, folks, to another exciting episode of A Distinguished Conversation. I'm your host, as always, Noah, and today, not with me, but not in studio, is Mr. Isaac Belota, dear friend of, or I guess dear brother of Atticus. So yeah, welcome to the show. What's it like being on someone else's podcast?
It's different. I don't think I've ever been on somebody else's podcast. I've done some interviews because I went to school in communication, so a lot of journalism students have to give interviews. But
fair enough.
But yeah, so I've driven my way to the top of the highest point in East Texas. I have stilled myself, and I am ready for a distinguished conversation.
Very nice. We are ready for a distinguished conversation here as well. I'm definitely not eating lunch right now, so yeah.
You're eating lunch at 4?
Yeah. Hey, man, adulting's rough.
Well, I had my lunch at like 10 today. Got up at 5:30.
It'd be that
drove
way.
An hour and a half. Did work. So
it'd be that way. Work is weird. Like my schedule is pretty much the same, except I might have to go in an hour early and help with paperwork, or I might have to stay an hour late and print out some stuff, or I might have to wear a bird suit every so often. So, work can be weird.
But, the bird suit is really the perk of it all.
Yeah.
Anytime I get to wear a sort of animal costume, possibly to a group of large people,
Oh, it's never
to
large people in my case.
But yeah, my work's sort of like, it always starts at 5:30 and it can end anytime from like 11 to 5:30 in the evening, just depending on how much work we have, window washing. And then, I kind of try to do my podcast thing on the side, but, sometimes you get lazy with it, and I need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
But
I, like in my case, I think I have the most like streamlined, laziest way of doing things, where pretty much the second that we're done recording, I throw a compressor on everything and I throw a limiter on it. And I'm like, so we might have a few racist jokes in there, or like some kind of something I should probably cut out. Like, actually, speaking of which, I was talking to an old classmate today, Miss Molly Flood. If you're listening to this, and that time that we mentioned your boyfriend or ex-boyfriend over on my buddy Max's podcast, but yeah, Miss Molly Flood, who only sometimes listens to our podcast and just skips around, is I believe how she put it. Sorry, I'm not bitter, but yeah. So yeah, we know. But yeah. That's the very. What was I saying? Oh yeah. That's one of the few.
No, you just yelled out her name. And then
yeah.
Went on your rant.
Yeah. Well, so that's one of the few times where we have to actually listen to the podcast before we put it out, and go through and listen to certain segments, and we're like, okay, no, we can't say that. No, we can't say that. We should probably bleep that out. We're gonna go to jail if that's on record. Fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's so talking about wearing the bird suit real quick, one of the like terrifying things about wearing the bird suit in my case is I wear it for work, and a lot of times it's kids who like the bird suit, and it always feels weird when you're like looking for children. It's like, my whole life I was taught not to do that, but now work is telling me to, go look for kids. I'm like, this doesn't seem like a good idea. And then they're like hugging at your leg and you're like, get off me. I'm like trying to shake them off. Like, get away.
Your work is slowly trying to edge you to getting on a list.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like I'm going to be putting on the helmet one of these days. I'm going to walk out of the closet that I get dressed in. And then they're like, Chris Hansen's just going to be sitting there like, so what were your plans tonight? And then he's like, so when you go up to children, what do you mean? And I'm like, and since I can't,
Is this, are you still working at?
I am, but I try not to say that on the air. So I'm gonna now I have to listen to this and bleep that out.
Well, I was gonna make a joke.
Well, go ahead.
What does it mean when you say you go up to a little kid and say?
So, two things I have to bleep out, but well worth it. But yeah, pretty much, like it's good times. I'm really sad that they don't do To Catch a Predator anymore. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, there's a good show. You ever listen to the Official podcast?
With Charlie?
Yeah. So the Australian guy and the Turkish guy, what's their names?
I can't think off the top of my head. I listen to them every so often, but I need to be more consistent.
Yeah, they've got a show called, I think it's Podophiles, where they go through all the old Chris Hansen stuff, and like I guess there's a website set up where the people who do the actual investigation like put up everything from those.
Very nice.
And man, it can be hilarious, but it's also kind of hard to listen to sometimes. Yeah. You don't really want to suggest that to your friends, like, oh, what are you listening to? Oh, Podophiles.
Yeah.
But
it's just some quality content right there. Some easy listening.
Just listen to some guys make fun of pedophiles, normal stuff.
Yeah. So talking about pedophiles.
You may have to cut out this whole first section.
It's just like, just watch as it goes to like an hour and a half, and like we have like 15 minutes that we can actually show.
15 minutes.
No, as far as I'm concerned, there's only two things that I gotta cut out. So.
Just me revealing your whereabouts.
Yeah, like the funny thing is, everyone that I know who listens to this show, they all know where I work. I just try to not say it on here, because the last thing I need is like corporate listening to this, and then like they hear us talking about me wearing a bird suit, and then they hear us talking about pedophiles, and then like next time I show up to work, there's like a form, and they're like, "We need you to fill this out," and I'm like, "What?" Good times.
Yeah, I'll try not to cost you your job for the rest of the episode.
Yep. So tell us about your podcast.
Okay. Well, my podcast is called Unordinary People, and that's just because, like things like Extraordinary People and stuff like that, there's probably already 20 podcasts with that name, and I think there were already 2 podcasts with that name when I started.
Yeah.
So like unreal, but unordinary.
Fair enough.
So basically what I wanted to do was just find people mostly locally. Sometimes I do kind of this. Usually it's a Zoom call or something.
Yeah.
And I try to get like local people who have incredible life stories, either something tragic happened to them and how they overcame that, or, they did something interesting with their life. So I've got everything ranging from a friend of mine who was in prison for, killing 2 people.
Fun stuff.
His life story, from when he was a child on up. I interview artists, talk about, their creative process and stuff, how they find inspiration, different things like that. I mean, just I'm trying to think. I had a Russian Spetsnaz, which was like the Soviet special forces. I had a guy from that, interviewed him. And so I just try to find people and kind of help them tell their story. I went through college and mass communications. So it was actually more geared towards marketing.
Yeah.
But I took a lot of journalism classes. I really liked that. I also like audio and video production.
Yeah.
So I graduated. I didn't really want to go work in a newsroom just because the people that I knew from college who were going to newsrooms.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I didn't like them, but they were very biased. It was very narrow-minded.
Yeah.
And how they would approach stories and stuff. It wasn't like that in the beginning. It kind of got worse as time got on.
Yeah.
But I didn't really want to go to a newsroom, have to go out and gather the stories they told me and stuff. And so I graduated. I'm like, okay, I spent all this time doing this. I have to do something with it. So I just started finding people, some of which I already knew. And some people, I was just like, it'd be cool to interview an artist. Let me look up local artists, you know?
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. So, like, when you say artist, I'm assuming music?
I've only actually had one musician come back to me. That's the other thing is, like, you know, you kind of send out an email or a DM and then you got to wait for people to come back, and it can honestly be terrifying, but also sometimes, like, people are just more than willing to talk to you. But as far as musicians, I think I've only talked to one. His name was Casey Muse. He was a hand drummer. Or he is a hand drummer, but he actually was working as a studio drummer and stuff.
Way cool.
And I won't go too much into his story because, you know, you got to go listen to the episode.
Of course.
But basically it was in his contract that he had to use drugs, and he stopped using drugs.
Fascinating.
And so since then, he's actually been helping kids with, like, learning disabilities and stuff. And doing that through teaching them, like, hand drumming and stuff.
Very cool.
I'm trying to think. I've done a lot of. It's kind of been a booming thing. So mural artists. So a lot of people with different styles and stuff like that, and a lot of them don't do just murals. They'll also be into sculpting or, you know, just canvas painting kind of stuff. And I mean, it's been interesting just kind of seeing, like, people are so willing to give you their life story. Like, I'm just some guy who sent out an email, you know? But, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But I guess on top of the music artist, there was another one, but he's more known for his production, and his name was Robin Hood. That's his actual legal name is Robin Hood Bryans. But in the 60s and 70s, he did some really big records. Mostly he's best known for his work with ZZ Top. He did their first 4 records. He had a small career playing piano and stuff in the 50s when he was a teenager.
Oh, wow.
And then him and his dad built a studio in their backyard. He's the guy who's responsible for Chili's baby back rib commercial. And like,
Walmart baby back might have to.
But he was super interesting guy. He's in his 80s now, but you wouldn't guess it. Like, super sharp, still, you know, great at storytelling. obviously is still in touch with the business, like knows all this stuff, still recording to this day. His studio's been open for 60 years now.
Way cool.
So, yeah.
So what you're saying is Chili's baby back ribs are the secret to like looking youthful.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's why he's made it this long, and he'll probably keep going, you know?
I wonder if it's like the
baby
sauce, the rub. I wonder what it is.
Yeah, I think you got to put the rub on your face. It's in the name, you know?
Yeah.
And that keeps you youthful. And it also like creates a capsule around your brain. I think that kind of like fights off dementia and aging too, you know? It's all the preservatives.
Yeah, that sounds, the preservatives. that's a very good point. But yeah, no, I completely get what you're talking about when trying to find people for the podcast, because like right now I'm kind of in a struggling spot where my co-host Caleb Deal, who's honestly way more interesting than I am, he's gonna be taking a full-time job and he's not sure how often he's gonna be able to do the podcast. So I'm trying to find somebody right now where I'm like, all right, who has a flexible schedule, who can make every Wednesday happen, you know? So, yeah. And then from there, like, we're trying to get a couple of live bands on the show. Like we got, I got a friend who's the drummer for a band called Profanity, and she's agreed to do the show, just needs a night off. So, we're trying to figure that out. And then we met a guy at a show, really talented guy named Gavin in the piano. And basically he took a bunch of like, I can't remember if it was Game Boy or like an SNES, and he found a way to like get all the files out of it for all the sounds and music. And so he like took all the tracks and like made his own music out of it, and then like he plays with these tracks with a piano, and it's really interesting and really fun to listen to. So we're trying to get him on one of these days. But yeah, it's very fun when you're like, hey, can you do this? And they're like, oh, I would, but I'm constantly busy, or oh yeah, sure, and then they never get back to you. It's fun.
Yeah. No, I understand that. So let me ask you, like, where do you want to go with your podcast? Because I've been listening to it, you know, and like, listen, dude, I'm cool with, you know, just hanging out and stuff, but it almost seems like you're trying to figure out what direction you're trying to go with it.
Oh yeah.
So I was just curious.
Oh, we're still trying to figure that out. Like, I keep telling myself that I'm gonna get like a piece of paper together and we're gonna be more organized and like go from segment to segment to segment. I keep telling myself that, and like I'm sure it'll only take me like maybe 5 minutes to get like things together, because like one of the segments that we wanted to do was just logic with Caleb Deal, and just have a bunch of like some piece of advice or logic from him. And then what was it, like another one was what's everybody up to, like what's a show we're watching that week, or a game we're playing, or something, book, whatever. Because like every once in a while, I don't do it often, but every once in a while I'll read, or I'll get a show that I'm just hooked to. But and then there was a handful of other segments that like we came up with, and like the food conversation and trying to figure out what category each food goes into. So been trying to do that, but just very lazy about it and haven't gotten around to it. But I feel like, because another thing was we were talking about doing one movie a month. So we just watch a movie and talk about a movie. And then try and do like music one week, and then like video games, and kind of like rotate, I guess, between music, video games, TV, and like a movie.
Yeah. So would it be like 1 week is a video game, the next week's music?
Yeah, something like that.
And then like a movie, like just rotating out like that instead of having separate segments?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
We talked about doing that because like we did the Scott Pilgrim episode, which I think that was a really fun one. We had Mr. Elijah Myers on, so and like another fun thing that we started doing was we would actually have like a distinguished conversation at the end. Like we would go from talking about like, I don't know, baby dolls and like pizza, and then at the end we would like start talking about religion or like what it means to be ethical or like, you know, just actual distinguished conversations. And like so
just wondering, because listening to that, it seems like it just kind of flows into that, which I think is like most guys' conversations. We just kind of start off being goofy and then somebody will take it there. So is it like that, or is that like something you've like planned out, like this is what I'm gonna go into?
Well, like I think it was the pineapple and pizza episode. We started talking about like just a whole bunch of randomness and pineapple on pizza, and throughout the episode we were like literally just grabbing slices and like eating it. And at the end, we were talking about like companionship, and it just kind of happened. Like we never intended to talk about companionship. We never intended to talk about religion. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, but they just kind of happened. And so like last week I had my neighbor Noah on, and he's a really cool, really chill guy. And so like my initially when I started this with my buddy Max, we both kind of had two separate ideas where I wasn't opposed to like what is the word, like having ideas or topics planned ahead, but I didn't want to like have specific segments initially because I felt that it I don't know. There's something that about like pre-rehearsed and premeditated things that I'm not a big fan of. Like when we sometime back, I was asked to play music for a church, and it was a rather large church around the area that I live in. So I went to one of the rehearsals, and like they didn't use amps or pedal boards. It's all like this digital stuff. So, and they were like, well, you don't get the buzz, you got this, and there's the signal chain, but they wanted a very clean and precise sound, and they wanted very what is the word, like exact. I'm trying to think of how, but like very produced and compressed. And so me, who's kind of used to playing in like some kind of rock or punk band where like the sloppiness kind of just becomes part of the show, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna politely decline, you know? So I just never been a fan of things where like it's overly compressed and overly thought out, because I feel you lose some of the authenticity of it. And like, even I know I've Atticus, he's shown you a handful of my songs, and like one of the things is I'll purposely leave mistakes in there, whether it's like I miss a note, or my personal favorite is a lot of times you can hear my keys jingling. Like I have my car keys, and like every once in a while if I walk around and like I'm shaking them right now, you'll just hear my car keys. And so are you a key on the belt loop guy? Yes.
Yeah, same here. Like, and then all of a sudden I'll realize it, and I'll be like, oh, that's what that sound is.
Yeah. So talking about the key on the belt loop real quick, what belt loop is it? Because like I have mine, so like there's that one, it's the second one to the left.
Yeah, I'm thinking on most jeans it's third one to the right.
Third one to the right.
Yeah, it just kind of depends. Like I got one pair of jeans, and like it's too far back for that one, so I wear it a little closer than it should be. But
fair enough.
It just depends on the pair,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It do be that way. I used to. Oh, go ahead.
I didn't want to derail that so much. I just thought about that because I do want to go back to what you were talking about with like the overproduced thing. And I think that's really like the beauty of podcasting is it is long form.
Yeah.
And we don't have those restrictions.
Yeah.
And like, have you ever like listened to like a news station or like one of those things, like just you're listening to a podcast and it just puts in the quay and you have to, and it just starts playing.
Yeah.
And it's just like so overproduced and overthought out that it's like, I don't want to listen to the evening news.
Yeah. Well, like,
while I'm listening to a podcast, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely get that. One of my favorite things I used to do with my mom is, for some reason, we would just occasionally watch news bloopers. And those are some of my favorites, where like, there's this one for BBC News where the guy is just sitting there for 10 minutes and he's just minding his own business, and they're like, you can see people like scrambling behind him trying to get him to realize that he's supposed to be on. And then like right as the segment's about to end, I believe, he's like, "Good day, I am," and then it just ends.
It just goes. Dude, that's a bad cameraman though. Unless they went automated, that may be it.
I'm not sure what was going on, but like he's just sitting there minding his own business.
No, I like the lady, and she just turns to her friend and she's like, "I look so pale."
Yeah.
And her friend's like, "You're on."
Yeah.
but no, because I am actually, believe it or not, a award-winning journalist on the collegiate level. I've actually won 5 Texas Intercollegiate Press Association awards.
Oh, well, congratulations.
And despite that, I ignored a ton of the rules that they taught me in classes.
Yeah.
because like what they teach you when you're in school, which I understand it's short form with television, and they're trying to get these talking points, right? They're trying to get a clip of somebody saying something specific, you know? And so they tell you to write down your questions beforehand, research the person, and write down these questions beforehand. But the way I do it is I kind of get an idea of the person. I actually try to do as little research as necessary.
Yeah.
And I'll go interview them. I know they're an artist. I know they're from somewhere, and, you know, something else. And I want to know what their story is, you know, and what they want to talk about, because everybody does the same interview with people.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you get the most interesting stories out of that if I went into this, you know, if I went to interview the owner of this, you know, comedy room, and I had my stories written out, I wouldn't have known that he was actually a country music artist who had played at Willie Nelson's Picnic and had toured with Florida Georgia Line, or I can't remember which band it was. And it's those weird side tangents that aren't directly related to what you came in to interview them for. That are oftentimes the best part of it.
And they'll light up when you start talking about something like that's something in agreement with that. Have you ever watched, I think it's Premier Guitars, when they do the rig rundowns?
I think I've seen one of their videos. So I'm not a guitarist, so
that's fair. Well, so a lot of times they'll have like the guitar tech, they'll have them do it. But like the ones who are really a fan of like the gear that they use and are aficionados with that stuff, they'll do it with them. Like the guys from Slipknot, they were talking about like all their guitars and which ones they like for certain songs and which ones they don't like for certain songs, and they always kind of have the same questions, but like they'll geek out about like this stuff, and they'll just light up. And like one of the in Slipknot specifically, to keep the wireless I'm trying to think of what it's called right now, the receiver, to keep it dry and from getting wet during shows because of sweat and everything, they put condoms on them. And so they would put those on there just for the heck of it, and they were like, yeah, it seems really weird, but it works. And then like another one of my favorites is Jesse Lacey from Brand New. He does this one, and he's just such a nerd when he's like, yeah, I wired all this up together, and he's like, I found this little thing where you can take apart this pedal and do something with it. And like even the way he was talking about his guitars, he's like, it's really cheap, but it's something I can throw around on stage. Yeah. And then then it transitioned to the guitar tech, and he's like, yeah, this guitarist, he tries to keep this one clean. And then it's fun little bit in the comment section was, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, he tries to keep that guitar in good shape, because when I saw them, he threw that guitar further than I've ever seen anyone throw anything. Good times.
And I think that's the thing is, like, a lot of times, like, what you get taught or when you're learning, presenting stuff, when you're in journalism class, you're going to collect a story, whether that be for a newspaper or TV. It's like that's giving you a general overview, whereas I think online you're allowed to nerd out more. Yeah. People who go in, because for one, you're watching TV, you're getting presented with the content. Yeah. If you go online, you're out there seeking out that content, right? Yeah. Because and so then that gives people so much more freedom to explore ideas and nuances of, this is the solution I came up with for this, and somebody else might have a different solution. Oh yeah. Or this is what experiences I had growing up. Taking an example as a tattoo artist, right? Yeah. And I can interview one tattoo artist, and they have a completely different experience learning and everything than the other tattoo artists I've interviewed. Yeah. And you can get into those details and stuff. And one can go into, their love of, heavy metal and stuff. And the other one can go into about how they only use this specific pin and wear this specific pair of socks and how that correlates to how they do tattooing and stuff. And I think that's like an incredible, beautiful thing, like long form content and like, self-produced media can do. Yeah. One of the things that I'm gonna kind of try and start doing, and I've talked about it before, but I want to get into video essays. And so like the one that I had planned was, I wrote this 17-page paper on the new Indiana Jones film. And I saw the film 7 different times, and I thought it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And everyone was like, "You've seen it 7 times, so I could only imagine how, like, if it was good." And I was like, "No, I didn't see it 7 times because I wanted to, because the whole time I was rolling my eyes." But like at one point, without spoiling too much, he's in the middle of a chase, and they specifically say he goes from, I think it's like 59th Street, and someone is chasing him on a motorcycle and stops. And they chase him from 59th to 51st Street, and someone who is running on foot, who's chasing Indiana Jones, who's on horseback, is somehow able to like catch up to him and misses him only by about a second. And I was like, this is just so pants on head stupid, and it's clear that nobody in the writer's room just thought about like these little things. But I had 17 pages, and when I recorded the audio for it, I thought, okay, maybe it'll be like 30 minutes or something. I was like, maybe 45. And then it turned into an hour and a half, and I was like, oh my God, I have to like do something. Because I was like,
number one, this would be the first attempt at a video essay, so I didn't want my magnum opus to be like my first one and then mess it up and realize it wasn't very good. So I decided I'm gonna tackle a few like smaller topics or things before I try and do something that big. But yeah, no, I like you said, it's a nuance, and it's almost like a niche that people have to look for. Because there's a market for anything, and like I was listening to a comedian, Sam Morrell, the other day, and I love his approach to comedy. It's very dry, and it's very like trying to think of a good word. It's very monotone, and a lot of the times he like says the joke without you even realizing it, but once it clicks, it's hilarious. And he does this one joke where he's like, porn is very inclusive because there's a little category for everyone. You're not fat. You're a big, beautiful woman. He's like, now compare that to like Vogue or like any other magazine or publishing, they're not going to have any of this, but they're like, we got a place for you here at Pornhub. I was like, that's really messed up, but really funny.
Yeah. So you were talking about like the discrepancies in like movies.
Yeah.
Right. So my thing is, as long as the story is driven forward by whatever's happening, I don't really care all that much about whether like this thing is in the exact same spot between shots. Yeah. What's your take on that?
So I think there's like, because like I said, I like things being a little sloppy. I think it adds to the authenticity, but I think it depends. Because in the case of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, I feel like...
Is that the actual name?
Yeah.
Like, man, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. No, like it's... it wasn't just that though, but like I went back and I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark several times, and I watched, because the first half of the essay was about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I think in my video essay that part was under like 20 minutes, like, and the rest was mostly about the new one. But like in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, when I was writing it out, it was like, all right, this happens, this is kind of dumb, this is kind of fun, I don't like this, hate this, love this. But the whole time I was like going through the plot. In Dial of Destiny, when I was writing it out, I literally had to stop every 2 minutes to like stop. And I'm like, okay, so Indy doesn't work at that college that he used to work at for reasons. He now lives in New York because reasons. And then like pretty much everything that happened in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is just completely undone. It was like every 5 seconds, I'm like, oh, hey, remember that character from earlier? Because I certainly don't. Well, he's back for some reason. Just like, and my personal favorite. So, do you care if I spoil it at all?
No, not really. I'm not gonna get Disney Plus again. So.
That's fair. I wouldn't recommend the new Indiana Jones film either. But there is a scene. So the whole plot is there. You see, I'm even having a hard time. So, Indy's estranged goddaughter makes her way back into his life, and she's now into archaeology or something. But she's not actually, because she's instead using him. And I guess they have a fractured relationship. But like when he first sees her again, like he lights up, like they're old friends. But the whole time she's just trying to use him. And it just happens just like that because, they end up kind of having to work together because Indiana Jones still knows things and she takes that for granted. And so later on, after they have escaped the bad guys, because basically the whole time the bad guys are like on their trail within like a few minutes. And it's almost like this chase that's kind of never happening but always happening. It's very weird, the pacing of it. They get to they get this thing called the Graphicos, and it shows the way to the other half of the dial because the dial that they're looking for is broken into 2 points. And so they're trying to find the second point, and it's in the tomb of Archimedes, which I did extensive research on Archimedes while writing this. And the Graphicos, which is, or not the Graphicos, the Antikythera, which was an actual device that they found in history. And there were several historical eras, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get too in depth with historical eras or like inconsistencies because all the other films have slight inconsistencies. But Helena realizes that it's not in Helena, his goddaughter, realizes that this thing is not in. It's in Syracuse, Sicily, and it's not in Alexandria, where they thought it was. And Indy's like, how do you know it's not there? And she says, what do you notice about the Graphicos? And he says, well, it's heavy. It's made out of wood and wax. And then he's like, it's too heavy. And then, like, she has this puzzled look on her face when he says that. And then Indy lights this thing on fire, and it melts down to this golden plate that she clearly didn't know was on there that reveals that it's in Syracuse. And then it's supposed to be like a moment of relief for the heroes, and like now they're on the right trail, and the bad guys don't know where they're supposed to go in because they're heading in the opposite direction. But then the bad guy looks through his binoculars and is like, they're headed that way. We should follow them. And then, like, I'm just sitting there the whole time, and I'm like, so nothing was accomplished. Like, it's so pants on head stupid, and that's how the rest of and it's also like the longest of the Indiana Jones films. So it's like 2.5 hours of just bullshit. And so, yeah, that being said, I don't mind minor mistakes, minor little things, as long as the plot moves forward. But when it's every other scene, and it starts to become noticeable. Like, yeah. Because, like, I
guess it's like, if a movie continually follows a certain type of logic, I don't mind it that much.
Yeah.
But, like, if it's something that's supposed to be, like, super grounded in reality, or is, like, in the case of Indiana Jones, working off, 3, possibly 4 other movies.
Yeah.
Like, I'll probably forgive it less. It's also just, I'm so tired of sequels to movies from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Well, like, the tragedy of it all was I went back and I watched the other ones, and they're all fantastic. Like,
yeah.
I'm not like, even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I'm a little bit biased towards that one because I saw it when I was a kid, and that was the one that came out around my time. But even going back and watching, like, the live action and the stunts and everything, it's all really great.
Yeah. It also does it, and like, it does a thing that's really great. Like, because when I was a kid, I remember just, like, thinking, like, oh, I'm watching Indiana Jones. It's a cool, serious movie.
Yeah.
But, like, it never takes itself that seriously.
No, but, like, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. But no, yeah, they're fantastic movies. Just, like, writing, the humor of them, like, just fantastic.
Yeah. One of my favorite jokes in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is, like, 5 minutes into the film, and at one point he swings and he just misses, like, his target that he's supposed to, and because, like, he just missed that and there's momentum going, he now swings backward and he lands in the window of a truck, and he's like, damn, I thought it was closer. And it's this complete subversion of expectations, because in every other instance he swung, he always hits his target. He always swings from point A to point B. But this is an older Indy, and, like, just that it's the littlest detail. It's a little joke, but it's like it doesn't take itself too seriously, despite, like, everything that's happening. And he's like, man, I thought I missed that. He cracks a little Indiana Jones joke about it, beats the guy in the truck, and keeps going.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I'll have to go back and watch it. I think it's I haven't seen it since I was probably like 12 years old. I'm trying to remember when it came out because I saw it shortly after that.
2008.
2008. So probably 9 to 10 years old.
Yep.
When I saw it, but like, I think that's just been kind of like the what do you call it? Like Godfather 3 for me.
Yeah.
Where just enough people have talked about it that I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
And it ruined the whole series for me.
Yeah. That's fair. Like, I don't know. Having done a little bit of research about it after the fact, and because I loved the film even before I did research, basically there was a lot of back and forth between Lucas and Spielberg regarding what to do, because they were always planning on doing a fourth one. And because I think the contract was for 5 movies. And so the fourth one, they kept having ideas, and Spielberg would like one, but Lucas wouldn't like the other. And so they would keep going back and forth with each other. And so this went on during the 90s, and then Star Wars was kind of finishing up and getting big. And so then they started doing the prequels, and it got pushed on the back burner. And I guess at one point, M. Night Shyamalan was one of the writers on it, but he left because he found it hard to work with Lucas, Spielberg, and Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And then instead of trying to go with the serials and adventure novels and stories that they were initially doing, and kind of not parroting but paying homage to, they went with B movies, because we tackled the 40s and the 30s already. So what's after that? Well, the 50s, Aliens. But Spielberg didn't want to do Aliens, so that's why they did Interdimensional Beings or something. So yeah, like it's not perfect, but it makes sense. That was the next evolution from adventure novels and serials to B movies, and so yeah. And then the next one.
The thing is, from what I can understand, is George Lucas is good at making movies as long as somebody else is there giving him input. Yeah. Because, like, left to his own devices, he just decides to, after the fact, add in some, like, just random alien animals. Yeah. Just gonna paste them on there.
Well, like, what's great about George Lucas is he's phenomenal at world building, and he can create the most intricate world, in like developed characters. He'll have the most brilliant ideas, but like putting it all together, he definitely needs like a Spielberg or somebody there to help him out with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was it? I did have something that I wanted to ask you, and it left my mind. Damn.
Was it related to movies or like what I do?
I can't remember. Because it was brought up earlier. But yeah, now you got me sidetracked about Indiana Jones. And I could talk about that all day if I wanted to.
We were talking about audio, video production styles,
percussion,
interviewing, percussion.
Yeah, as long as I've known you, you've been a percussionist, and like you seem to do a little bit of everything. So what made you want to get into drums and percussion?
I'm not really sure. I know I always liked drumming on things. When I was probably 8 or 9, my mom signed me up for drum lessons. It was Mondo Drumming at Fifth Street Avenue in Fort Worth. And so it was, the drum instructor was Eddie Dunlap. He had a special deal. It was a homeschool kid class, because during the week he didn't get that many classes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I learned djembe mostly from him. He also had some different African kind of bass drums and box and stuff like that. But I mostly started learning hand drums from him, and just kind of haven't stopped doing it. I played like a drum kit for a while, and then during the, I'm trying to remember why, but I think it was like a really cheap. The first one I got was a really cheap kit that guy.
Naturally.
Yeah, it was that guy from my church gave me when I was probably like 11 or 12. And so eventually that kit, I think, just kind of gave out. And, I'm a kid. I don't have money to get, new drum heads or anything like that. So I think eventually that ends up in the trash. I still, play hand drums every now and then. Atticus is playing violin at that point, and so we just kind of jam on that. Fair enough. Then Atticus moved into guitar, and good thing about hand drums is you can kind of adjust it for any situation. So if he's playing acoustic guitar, I'm not over there, crashing cymbals or anything like that.
Yeah.
But and then we moved here, and I was dumpster diving at a guitar center.
Naturally.
And there was a e-drum kit in the trash. So I took that out. I used that for a while. And then I just kind of fell off playing that. But, I still have a djembe. I've got a cajon, which I know just means box in Spanish, but it's got a little snare thing inside of it.
Yeah.
And then it's like a dubeka or something like that. It's like a Greek, Turkish little hand drum you put under your arm. But mostly I don't play with any bands. I'd probably like to, but I never find the time to or anything. But mostly just do it for my own enjoyment. And it's just a fun thing to pull out. Atticus will be playing his guitar. I pulled that out. We have a jam session for 30 minutes, and
then go your separate ways. Yeah,
pretty much. It's just one of those transactions. It doesn't mean that much, but it's nice when you get it.
It's kind of like the one night stand for musicians.
Yeah.
It's like, I would never start a band with you, but if you ever want to do this again.
I'm guessing that's how one night stands go. I haven't.
Me too.
I'm not exactly an expert.
I'm not an expert either. But I'd assume because I'm assuming goods and services are being traded.
Just, you take the girl out to dinner, y'all go back, and you're like, hey, check out this song I learned on the bongos. And then she smokes a cigarette, and y'all go.
I'm like, hey, so look at this thing I can do with the G string. That one goes either way, kiddos. I recently went on a first date, and at one point during the date, we went back to her place, and I was telling all my coworkers this, and they were like, ooh, and I was like, and then we watched a show, and we watched Harley Quinn, and they were like, and then what'd you do? I was like, that was it. Then she kicked me out. And they were like, well, what did you do? And because everyone's trying to figure out why it went south. And I was like, honestly, I don't know. And because at one point she laid down on the couch. And so I was sitting on the left side of the couch, and where I was sitting, her head was maybe a foot away from me. And I was like, what do you do when someone's in the fetal position, laying right next to you on a couch? I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I had my hands in my lap and legs crossed. I was just sitting there. I was like,
okay, so Has there been any like hand holding?
No.
Hugging anything like that beforehand?
No, everyone was telling me about this touch barrier that apparently I needed to break, and I guess I did not break it. So
yeah, I mean, I just feel like like if there has not been contact initiated by the other party, like I don't think you lay down. I don't know.
Yeah,
listen, I'm not, I'm not somebody you should be asking dating advice,
Oh, I'm not.
Because, like, I'm in my, relationship with my girlfriend now, and I'm happy in it. And I absolutely have no clue.
Me neither. Like, I was trying to figure out, because the way that I, like, if my coworker is like crying or something like that, my initial, like, I'm trying to think, like, just my initial instinct is, I want to help this person and or hurt whoever hurt my coworker.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times they frown upon you like either stabbing a person or keying their car. So instead, I just I pat the head of my coworker. I'm like, there, it'll be all right. And they're like, are you petting me like a puppy? And I'm like, there, it'll be all right. I'm like, I don't know what to do. My coworkers were like, so you gotta, let's see. I had a coworker and they were like, so you gotta go check out some lesbian videos. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that as advice. Like, especially not first date sort of thing.
Yeah, they were like, we don't know what you're and I quote, they said, we don't know what you're packing down there, so you might want to get good with that tongue. And I was like, whoa. But I was like taking notes because I was like, honestly, I can't be like I gotta. What is the word? I can't be turning away advice. I don't know what I'm doing here, so I'll just keep it in the back pocket.
My advice would be, like, if she hasn't tried to initiate, like, holding hands or, like, leaning up against you while y'all are walking or, just nudges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go straight into, laying on the couch, arms entangled.
Yeah,
stuff like that. I feel like that's a pretty big step.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that anybody was because everyone was like maybe rubber back. I was like, I don't know. Touching another human being just seems weird.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe a nice.
It's not weird if she initiates cuddling.
Yeah,
but if this is a first date, I wouldn't go straight into cuddling. Yeah. Skipping over the, hand holding.
Well,
stuff.
so
anyway, so how did it go? Did you get a second date?
I like to think of it that I gave her such a phenomenal first date that she didn't need a second one. Or I like to think that I left her speechless. But everyone else tells me, no, Noah, that means she left you on red. And I was like, I left her speechless,
Yeah.
But yeah, so
now listening to like your podcast, I'd say you're putting a lot of weight on like first dates and stuff. Like, how well do you know the people before you go on a date with them?
Let me see, because I've only been on like 2 of them. In this case, I think probably knew her fairly well enough. Knew she liked Triceratops and dream cars.
Yeah, but I'm saying like I was like fairly well enough. Is this like 2 conversations?
About texting for a week back and forth, just random conversations.
Yeah.
So like, because all of my coworkers were the ones who were like, oh, you gotta ask her out. I was like, I don't know how to do that. Like, that's just weird to say, hey, would you like to like hang out with me or go on a date? That, like, I don't know. I'm terrified to do that. Like, talking to women is not one of my strong suits. My
oh no, trust me. I understand that. I wouldn't say so much talking to them. I would say I'm not very good at wasn't very good at asking them out.
like
Right. And
yeah.
but I finally worked the courage, and I've been with my girlfriend for like 3 years now. We're very happy.
Nice.
It works out. It's not like a terrible thing not to be asking every girl you meet or find it interesting or attractive as.
Yeah. Right now, what is it? So like right now, there's this girl who has my fancy, and I was like, whoa, fiery looking redhead, I like redheads, but like, I like a girl with some issues, because my thought process is maybe if she has daddy issues, that'll balance out my mommy issues. I'm thinking ahead, potential breeding. You want to like, you want.
I don't know if that's how it works.
Maybe not. We can't be too sure. The science isn't clear, but that's what I'm trying to figure out the science. Because
you haven't changed at all.
No, I have
since,
not.
Like I first met you, and you're like, "Oh, I'm just so dark and mysterious. No one can understand why I'm wearing a Raiders jacket in the summertime."
Oh, I still wear jackets in the summertime. I hate.
Yeah, but I'm saying at this point it's just out of habit. But it's like just kind of this like leftover from like, oh, I'm like early high school, late middle school, and so mysterious sort of thing.
You're like, that's why nobody wants to talk to you, Noah, because they feel like they're talking to a child, and they're like, where's Chris Hansen? It's just.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not that they feel like they're talking to a child. Maybe there's like a barrier you've put up because of that, because you're afraid to move past certain things,
I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, we're getting into the distinguished conversation part.
Yeah, the computer shut off, so that means we've been going for at least an hour, so I suppose we have 30 minutes to talk about, like, the walls that I've put up, and...
Yeah.
It all started back when, let me see, what was the first one I put up? I remember I voted for that one guy, and he was all about that big one. I think over the last 2 years, it really messed me up. Cause like we when my mom passed, it just really shook me up. Cause what I learned probably about a year ago was when my mom died, my best friend died. Like,
yeah.
Before that, I had my best friend was like Lily, back at church, and Atticus.
I was trying to remember her name. It was bugging me because I was like trying to remember if it came up in conversation. But
Lily, she was like my best friend. And do you know how that all ended?
With you and Lily, or
yeah.
No, not really.
So after she moved, we kind of lost contact, and I found her on like Instagram, I think it was, and we would talk every so often, and it was maybe like every couple months, which for me I'm learning this is normal, where I just won't say hi to somebody or see them for months on end, and then 6 months later, oh hey, how you doing, and pick up right where we left off.
Yeah.
So I guess I thought it was normal. And one day I said, "Are you is existing?" because that's how normal people talk. And she said, "Take the hint, stop texting me." And I was like, "Oh, that sucks." And that was July 3rd or July 5th or something like that, 2020. My mom passed September 21. And actually, it's like 2 years next week, I think. So yeah, fun times. But like, upon thinking about that, Atticus is actually just like the person that I've known the longest who's still had conversations with me. So, but aside from like people that I've met at church or work or school or whatever, my mom was the one person who I always had in my life. And like my dad, he was always at work, and nothing against him, because I always learned more from him not being at the house. I learned what it meant to put in a hard day's work, to provide for a family, and to what it meant to like be an adult, I guess, from my dad in that regard. But the late night conversations, or like I said, me and my mom would watch all these old news bloopers, and that would spiral into just random videos on YouTube that we would watch together. And so, like I said, it was probably only last year when I realized that, and when things kind of settled in. But I've never had, like, this is the first time that I actually have had to actually process things, because it's just been one thing after another, and it's the first time where I'm like, okay, if I don't fix this now, I'm gonna be messed up for the rest of my life. And I think even now, I am kind of wanting a relationship or something, because I just don't want to do this by myself, and I don't like being alone with myself. Like, there's just something about, even the podcast was just kind of something that I guess I really have been pushing and doing, just to hang out and talk with people, just because I don't like doing my one day. Like, I get 1 or 2 days off a week, and a lot of times all I can do is just sit on my couch, and it stresses me out. So yeah, like, I've been putting off a lot of different things, and one of them was going back and watching and listening to, and just a whole bunch of movies, music, and different things that my mom and I used to do. I showed her Cowboy Bebop, and I got her into Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and I'm trying to think what was one of the other. I convinced her to watch The Dark Knight. She hated Batman, and I had to write, it was 101 reasons why she should let me play the Batman Arkham games. And I still have it somewhere. And like, some of them are complete bullshit, where it's just like, because I really love you, Mom. And like, it was like, I'll do the dishes for a week or whatever. But there was like, she was like, you know what? You wrote 101 reasons. Sure. But showing her The Dark Knight, she was like, that was a really great movie. Heath Ledger is a genius. And she's like, I can't wait to see the next one with Heath Ledger. And I'm like, you know, but I was like, about that. Brokeback Mountain gave him other, you know, there's a, no. But yeah, so, like, I've recently started my rewatch of Cowboy Bebop. I tried watching it one time and then gave up, but I'm watching that again on Halloween. It's weird. We don't celebrate Halloween in my family, but it's like, I don't even celebrate Christmas, and I stopped celebrating Christmas, like Thanksgiving, and especially my birthday after my mom passed. Like, I'm very...
Just curious, did y'all do that because of religious reasons, or was it just like never made a big deal out of it?
So I remember, like, we used to go trick-or-treating as a kid, and there was one year where my mom was like, you know what, I don't think we should. And I think it was partially because of religious reasons, but she was like, you know, there's just a lot of things associated with it, but we still liked doing costumes. That was the big thing for me, at least, was I really loved dressing up in different costumes. And like, we did a Jack Sparrow costume where I did like 2 or 3 hours worth of makeup and like braiding the hair and doing different things with it. When I was like 7 or 8, we did the Speed Racer costume where we made the entire Mach 5 out of cardboard. And so, like the last one that I did with my mom was, we were talking about like making, like having me be my boss for Halloween. And so I got all the stuff together and I did my boss's walk, and I like just got all the little ingredients to make this wonderful concoction of a costume. And yeah, it just all these fun things, and that's kind of the only holiday I've ever really celebrated since my mom passed. And it's not even the holiday, it's just I like dressing up, and it was something that me and my mom did together that was special, and I never want to stop doing that. And like no one else in my family has ever got it. They never understood. They were like, it's weird why you would spend a week or 2 weeks just looking for random stuff. But I'm like, the second Halloween is over, I have to start getting ready for next year. Like I plan these things out ahead. And so yeah, last 2 years have been kind of weird. But I definitely put up walls and barriers and didn't talk to people, didn't what is the word? Didn't sell. I still don't ever see myself going back to celebrating like Christmas or my birthday, because I don't know, it's not worth celebrating if my mom's not there, and I don't feel that there's anything to celebrate, and it's just another day for me. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of the best advice. I can't tell you, celebrate holidays or whatever.
Yeah.
But like,
just stop what you're doing, because it ain't working.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying what you're like.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I know.
Yeah. Well, for one, like, companionship shouldn't be, and I'm not saying it is, but it's not a fix for missing the absence of someone else.
It's not, and
and I'm not saying that that's what you're doing. I'm not trying to psychologically analyze you or whatever.
But you are.
But, yeah, but in a way I am. But I'm just trying to give you advice as somebody who has.
I'm gonna listen to your podcast. I'm gonna listen to your podcast. So I recently spoke with this yeah. Mexican with issues.
No, I just interview people. I don't talk about my own opinions on that. This is my only chance to.
But next week, next week things are gonna change.
Yeah, but like, as somebody who has struggled with depression and stuff, not so much over somebody as close as a mother dying or something like that, but like, you need to find a reason, for one, that you can allow yourself to be happy.
Yeah.
Without her there. Like, it's not a selfish thing.
No.
To enjoy a holiday or something like that. I understand you're working through that, and I'm not telling you, like, this Christmas you got to go out and celebrate or something.
I better see you caroling and chestnuts roasting.
But I'm saying, like, you got to, for one, putting up those walls and barriers, like you said, you're already working on getting rid of those.
Yeah.
And, man, I'm choking up.
Yeah,
dude, it makes me sad. Your mom was a wonderful lady.
She was.
Like, really?
She is. She's I firmly believe she's living it up and looking down upon me from up in the clouds.
Up in the.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sure she's up there. You know her better than I do, but from what I gathered, I'd guess she's up there looking down on you.
Yeah. So people are like, no, she's proud of you. I'm like, no, she's.
But and I think she is, dude.
I think there's a lot of things where she's like, you done messed up, but then like there's other things where she's like, that new song's not terrible, but you could have done this differently. Like, one of my favorite stories to tell people is, and this is not a joke, and this one kind of does hurt to the core a little bit. All I said was, excuse me, and she said, there is no excuse for you. And like, above all else, of all my childhood memories, I remember this more vividly than anything. And I'm like, I'll wake up in cold sweats every so often, like just that one burns a little bit. It's like a frozen chill, and I'm like, whew. But yeah.
But no, dude, I think she is proud of you, and the main reason is because you admit you've put up those boundaries and you're working through them,
Yeah,
and I'm trying to talk. I've got a horrible habit of just like bursting out into tears anytime I try to be serious.
See, I have the problem now of, and like I learned about this. I can't cry. I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but what ended up happening was there was this one night I went out with my coworkers, and we were all sitting at a bar, and everyone was drinking and talking, and all I did was stare at a wall for the entire hour or two that we were sitting there. And I didn't really say a word. I was just staring at this wall. And finally everyone left and went to their cars, and I always kind of park kind of far away. It's just a bad habit that I've gotten. One of these days I'm going to get mugged, and they're like, well, how'd that happen? Well, he parked a mile away, There's nobody nearby. But so I was walking towards my car, and as everyone was like, hey, have a good night, see ya, noticed that I was just blank stare, didn't say anything. And there's a spot, I call it my little depression spot. It's by the bar that all my coworkers went to. And it's on this little hill, and there's this little ledge. And if you just see someone acting very depressed, and you see them walking towards a very tall spot where they could maybe jump or fall down, they had every right to be concerned. And all I did was sit there, and people like tried coming over and talking to me. And at one point, all I could do was like cry. And then at one point I went into this like laughter. And it was this like very uncomfortable for me to do, but like I think I had all my emotions, and they all just happened, and I didn't say anything. I'm lucky to have my dear friend and old boss. He was there, and he was like, you're coming to my house. We're gonna play video games. We're gonna do whatever, because he's just concerned for his employee. And I'm very lucky to have that boss who gave me plenty of rides home when I needed them, and was more than just a boss. And I'm happy to like. It sucks that I don't work with him anymore, but I'm so happy that I don't, because now I just have this friend outside of work that I need to hit up now that I think about it, and just hang out with him one of these days. But yeah, he was just there for me, and like it was after that though, I just couldn't cry. No matter what I did, like if I watch a sad movie now, I don't cry. If I listen to old songs, because what was the one? I used to listen to a song. Have you ever seen Dumbo?
Oh, yeah.
So that was one of me and my mom's favorite movies. And there's this one specific scene called where the little elephant goes and he visits his mom who's in captivity, and it's just beautiful. And every time I would watch it, like as a kid, or like I would just tear up. And another fun story where I cried was shortly after my mom passed. I was playing in a show choir, and we one of the songs they were doing was Beauty and the Beast, which just so happened to be one of my mom's favorites, because one of my parents' first dates that they went on was to go see Beauty and the Beast. So immediately, like as soon as it like clicked that they were gonna be doing that song, I remember it was like the first or second show. I was on stage and I was having to stand in the back because I was playing guitar, and they would sing their little song and just Beauty and the Beast, and I was just bawling and trying not to draw attention to myself. Just lots of fun.
Yeah.
It was like the week after I think we had our shows, and I was just trying not to like. It's fun. But yeah, that was back when I could cry and feel emotions, but now I can't. So consider yourself lucky that you can still cry.
I don't think it's that you don't feel emotions, man. I think it's
I feel them all the time.
Felt all of them, dude.
How it feels to chew 5 gum. I stimulated all the senses.
You just.
Oh, goodness gracious. I miss those commercials.
Yeah.
And my mom.
Man, yeah. Yeah, man.
I thought we were doing a podcast, not a therapy.
I don't know, man.
You've opened me up.
I think I'm like choking up for you, dude.
Must be nice.
Huh?
I said, must be nice.
Yeah, man.
Oh, good times. Well, is that a good spot to wrap it up, or is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not really. I don't think we can top that, honestly.
Yep.
Just yeah. If you want, conversations that might sort of go a little something like this, but completely different.
Yeah.
Where I interview, different people from all sorts of different backgrounds and stuff, and let people, get to know them for that, 30 minutes to an hour and a half or so. Go check out Unordinary People. Easiest place to find it's on YouTube. And then it's also on Spotify and a bunch of other podcast apps. But easiest way to get to those other apps would be search up Unordinary People on YouTube.
Very good.
And just thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, yeah, anytime. I really like having different people on the show just to, I don't think a conversation should be just this little box. I like opening that box and having bands on, having brothers on, having Atticus on, and having just different people, different walks of life. I know one of the ones that we talked about doing here is religion. Yeah. And in that one, we plan on having, like, going from one person to the next and probably calling and having different people in the studio with different beliefs and everything, and just having a conversation about that. Because, yeah, distinguished conversations can start talking off about Indiana Jones and podcasting and end up talking about dead mothers and emotions. So, or pineapple on pizza and companionship. So yeah, go follow Mr. Isaac over at Unordinary People. Do you have like any social medias or anything that you want to plug?
Yeah, I think it's Unordinary People _podcast on Instagram. Also, if you want to check out my photography or artwork, there's Isaac Belota Photography, Isaac Belota Artwork or Art, and then it's also on Facebook. I know nobody uses Facebook, but those are the only 2 social media I had. So
everyone keeps trying to get me.
You can check them out on there.
Everyone tries to get me on Facebook. I won't do it.
Like, it's one of those things where I've had it since I was like 15. Yeah. And so like I haven't bothered getting rid of it. Every once in a while I'll post. Mostly I like seeing things from friends
Yeah.
But I also just like get a lot of like really bad memes if I go on there from the great aunt or the friend of my mom.
Saw this funniest minion meme the other day.
What'd you say?
Saw this funniest minion meme and thought of you.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then just like every once in a while, like, oh, this person got married, or this person.
It's like, oh,
kid.
Good for you.
Yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, that person's the same age as me and they've got a kid.
So
I'm getting old, I guess.
I guess I remember. So I used to have this coworker, Patrick, who's actually been on the show, and we were just talking, and I think we were just closing up sections or something at work. And he was like, Noah, would you ever date someone with a kid? And I thought it was the most like obscene question because I, the shy young 18-year-old who barely could talk to women, I was like, why would you ask me that? Like I just thought it was weird. And then I kind of started entering that dating game, and I was like, oh my God, everyone has a kid now. I was like, this is, I like that question just kind of came back to me, and I was like, oh.
Yep.
So, yeah.
See, I'm glad I don't have to think about that question. Love you, Gwyneth. Hope you're listening and not disappointed in me.
Anyone who listens to this podcast is always disappointed in us. Well, thank you all for tuning in, folks. We're glad to have Mr. Isaac Bellotto on the show, and we'll probably have you back. Probably. Don't get too attached. But yeah, you can find us.
Me get attached or the audience?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
But yeah, you can find us at I think it's _distinguished_conversation_ on the Insta chats or on YouTube's or Spotify. New episodes every week. And I've been your host, as always, Noah, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.